This is Jonathan Agger, 5th Pro Boxing fans. I'm down here at the Dale Youth Club. With me, Denzel Bentley, for about the third time in a week. How you doing, Denzel?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, you're fighting on the fight before Christmas in a couple of weeks' time. Before we get into any of that, I've just seen you on the pads with the young kids around the area. What was that like? Do you see yourself as a future trainer, perhaps?
You know what, yeah, being a future trainer is a bit far-fetched right now. I need to achieve what I'm achieving, but that was good fun. I had fun with them. A lot of them were very enthusiastic. Some of them actually boxed, so they were trying to prove a point like, yeah, I box too, kind of thing. So they were good on the pads. Yeah, it was good fun, man. A lot of them kept coming back. They wore me out. I was sweating. I had to step outside for air for a little bit. It was good.
What was your background like? Did you come into a similar sort of environment, a young age, and then start boxing? How did you get into it?
I didn't, I actually didn't. How I got into boxing was my brother bought gloves just to try and make money out of it, get like some of us to fight each other. So we just grew up fighting in our blocks and in the park and stuff. So we used to fight each other, gloves and head guard, put some on, and then people used to be like, "Right, you and your brother are actually good." So he found a gym. When I got to college, I met a friend that boxed, so he took me to a gym, and then we just kind of went from there.
Do you see anyone down here that do you reckon, like, you've had that influence on them perhaps to join a boxing club?
Maybe not me specifically, but like I know Frank Bruno, them seeing Frank Bruno 100%, and obviously seeing Daniel Dubois because they're bigger names. But obviously, hopefully, me and obviously James and Louis helping them out on the pads and that would inspire them. Like, they know we're professionals, so they might be like, "Oh yeah, we've got professionals taking us on the pad," but they don't know who we are yet. So if I build my name, they might remember me and be like, "Oh, that's that guy that took us on the pads. Oh, I can definitely box." So maybe down the line it might inspire them. But right now, I know Frank Bruno and Daniel Dubois 100%. It was good for them seeing them and being like, you know what.
Now, you might be a different weight class to Frank Bruno, but is he one of sort of your heroes? I'm sure you grew up watching him.
You know what? Growing up, I didn't watch boxing, but as I've done, no, I didn't watch boxing. I was into football. I didn't start watching boxing. I didn't start watching boxing until my late teens. But doing my history and stuff, I know what he means to the country, and I know what kind of guy he was. You know what I'm saying? He tried, he failed, and tried again, and obviously at the end of the day succeeded. And that's the inspiration to anyone. You know what I'm saying? Don't give up on your dreams. He ended up achieving the goal that he set out to achieve, and that's inspiration for everyone, man.
He has a very close relationship with Daniel Dubois. Do you see Daniel Dubois emulating his success, maybe even surpassing it, becoming unified champion?
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure that's his aim. I'm sure his aim is to surpass him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at your heroes and you don't really want to do exactly what they've done, or like even come close to what they've done. You want to kind of exceed it. You actually want to be like greater than the people that you grew up looking at. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of like, I'm not trying to compare him to his parents, but sort of like your parents. Like, you see your parents and your parents want you to do better than them. So I'm sure Frank wants him to do better than himself. That's why he's got such a close relationship with him and guiding him through his career. So that's good for Daniel to have someone like Frank Bruno by your side, man. That's excellent, especially where he's a heavyweight as well, a legend in the country. That's excellent, man.
Talk to me about December 21st. We spoke last week and you hadn't had an opponent, and you still haven't had an opponent announced. When are you sort of expecting to know of your opponent? Will it be just on fight week? No,
I'm expecting to hear back this week, but we'll see how it goes, innit? Obviously, the latest it can be is fight week. I don't want anyone that's had to be rushed in to just to get me a fight or something not meaningful. My last performance was great. You know what I'm saying? It was excellent, like, especially with a guy with a winning opponent. And I want to keep that momentum. I don't want to come back fighting someone that doesn't have a winning record, and now I have to try and get myself up for it rather than being up for it mentally as well because of the challenge. So hopefully this week we get someone that's credible. And if not, then it is what it is. I'm still fighting anyway, and I'll put in a performance either way.
How difficult has it been, though, in training when you don't know who your opponent is? Is it difficult to sort of prepare for a style?
You know what? Not really, because styles are styles, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? You come across loads of different styles in sparring. So me not knowing who I'm fighting, we haven't had any specific sparring come in. So we've just had anyone come in. So that's different styles on its own. So I'm sure whoever I'm fighting, I would have come across that style in sparring at some point. I've been in the gym all year. So, and I don't really focus on that because we're in the gym with a load of boys, so it takes your mind off your fight really, and you're just training. So we just have a bit of fun, make jokes, and watch each other train and just push each other on. So it's not like I'm sitting in the gym on my own saying, "Oh, I need an opponent so I can get ready," because the sparring that I get is second to none anyway. Down the Peacock Gym, everyone comes through different styles: southpaw, orthodox, square fighters, come forward fighters, backfoot fighters. So I should be used to everything.
Now, Liam Williams, your promotional stablemate, shall we say, fights on the same bill as you. Is that a potential fight you're looking at?
It's a potential fight. If he holds on to that British title any longer, then obviously that's the fight that I want to step up to that level. But as he's shown, he's moving on. It's good for him, great fighter. I wish him all the best. I hope he wins because it's better for the stable and obviously for British fighters like me, myself. But yeah, I'm sure it's a fight that can happen down the line. Both for the same promoters, so it shouldn't be hard to make. But yeah, let me just. I'm ready for them type of fights, but let me just prove myself a little bit more so I can stop holding stick on Twitter from these Welsh fans.
I mean, he's in an eliminator for Demetrius Andrade's title. Well, it doesn't look like it's a final eliminator, but if that fight was to happen, how would that go?
With Liam and Demetrius Andrade? Oh, Demetrius Andrade is a quality fighter. Like he's a crazy fighter. That's what I'm saying. His awkwardness and his skill might be a bit too much for Liam Williams. But if Liam Williams wins that too, that's good for him and good for the stable and good for middleweights in this country, just like myself. So if he goes out there, that's who, I don't know him, but that's who, he's a British fighter. I root for him to win that fight because he'll be bringing it back home and giving everyone else opportunities. But in actual reality, I think Andrade might beat him. Or will beat him, actually. Yeah, or will beat him, yeah.
Just want to talk about Saturday night, Anthony Joshua regaining the world heavyweight titles. Put on a pretty sound display in terms of boxed and moved like people recommended. What did you make of the performance?
I think his performance was spot on. Can't complain about his performance. The fight wasn't the best of fights. But that's Ruiz's fault. You can't fault Anthony Joshua for doing what he needed to do to win. Ruiz should have been able to neutralise that and do what he does best. But like he said, which there's no excuse for, he didn't train hard enough. It's no one's fault but his own. But Joshua done what he needed to do. He brought the belt back home. That's better for British boxing as a whole, better for the heavyweights in this country, and better for everyone. Everyone gets paid more when Joshua's the champion. So it's good he won it, basically, yeah. But if Ruiz had a chance and he let it go, you can't blame anyone for that but himself.
What did you make of his comments? You kind of alluded to it, but what did you make of his post-fight comments saying that he didn't train hard enough? He was out of shape. We saw in the weigh-in, obviously, but he was out of shape and partied too much after becoming the world heavyweight champion. Did those comments sit right with you?
No, he was better off not saying anything. If that's your excuse, you're better off not saying anything. He should have said he was injured and it didn't allow him to train how he wanted to train. You know what I'm saying? At least something like that. But you're welcome. But yeah.
For you?
Nah, I guess so. No one else to say. But yeah. Yeah, what was I saying? Where was I? Yeah, Ruiz. Yeah, he might as well have not said anything. Because you come out like that, talk about the biggest fight of your life, biggest fight of your career, probably the biggest fight you'll ever have in your career. And you have a chance to change your life around again and prove that as wrong. And just let people know that it was not an accident the first time round. And then you come out and say you didn't train hard enough. Like, are you all right? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, you can't use them excuses there, man. I'm not going to lie to you.
Do you think it's hard to remain disciplined, though, when you become the world champion, you achieve your dream from nowhere, and then you have all this fame? Do you think it's perhaps difficult to maintain focus?
100% it must be. I ain't been there, so I wouldn't know, but you never know. Put a couple million in my bank, I might go off the rails as well. But at the end of the day, it was unfinished business. There was still a job at hand. That alone should have been the main focus. If you beat him twice and then went off the rails and lost to someone else, that's understandable. But right now, you haven't made it yet. 6 months down the line, you've got to prove yourself again. That should have kept you discipline, do you know what I'm saying? Just the fact that you've got to do it again and you can't lose to this guy, like you just beat him. That should have been enough motivation for him to be like, okay, cool, we're not done yet, we've still got a date at hand and blah, 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 whatever. If he beat Joshua the second time and then didn't have a date and then was partying all over and had a fight date and didn't know when he was fighting next, then yeah, it's easy to go off the rails, 100%. You're spending all that money, you're living a life that you wasn't able to live before, look after your whole family. That's understandable. But when there's unfinished business and there's still a task at hand, there's no excuse for that, I can't lie.
Who do you want to see him face next? There's talks of mandatories with Kubrat Pulev, Alexander Usyk. Where does the heavyweight landscape lie at the moment with Wilder and Fury tied up? Do you think it's going to be one of the mandatories? Yeah,
100%. It should be one of the mandatories because he's brought new people into his team. You've seen him put on a different display as he usually has. It would be good to see him get used to that kind of boxing and then mix it with his own style, like how he usually fights. You know, come forward, trying to knock people out, but then also, if that don't work, go on the back foot. So it'll be good to see how much he can soak up. Because in 6 months, he done that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it'll be good to see how much he can soak up. So fight the mandatories, and either of the two mandatories aren't easy fights. But it's easier than the top two, in Fury and Wilder. So it'd be nice to see him mix that with his style, get more settled in it. Because if he can do that in 6 months, imagine what he can do in a year. So it'd be good to just keep working with these new trainers, these new coaches, this new team as much as possible. Keep adapting, keep learning new things, keep picking up new things, and then hopefully, if not the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, start fighting the likes of Furies and Wilder and stuff like that.
I just want to move on to your division. Yeah. Now, one person that was ringside was Canelo Alvarez. It looks like he's moving back down from light heavyweight, perhaps to super middleweight, against, the rumours are, Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders. We're not sure yet. How would you think he'd fare against one of those two?
I think he'd beat Callum Smith. Just based on his last performance, I'd judge fighters on the last performance. You know what I'm saying? Callum Smith is a great fighter, he's a great champion. Can't take nothing away from him. He's done what he's done, but the performance John Ryder put up against him was excellent. I think Canelo is a lot better than John Ryder. Like, no disrespect to John Ryder, I just think he's on that level. He's proved himself to be anyway. So I think with his style, he'd probably beat Callum Smith. But then again, he don't come forward like Ryder, but I think he would know how to beat Callum Smith. With Billy Joe, it's a bit more trickier, because I know I just said I base things on last performance, but Billy Joe is sort of different because he's tricky, he's a southpaw. How would Canelo work with that? Because you saw when he boxed Lara, it was a kind of techie fight, you know what I'm saying? But Billy Joe, I don't think he's ever been put over before. He can take a shot. Lara's been put over, been hurt a little bit. I think Canelo hurt him with a few shots and stuff, but he still managed to try and outbox him. I think with Billy Joe, the bigger the levels, the better he gets, kind of thing. So I think he beats them both, but Billy Joe will be a harder fight.
All right, too sharp. Denzel Bentley, I appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week for the press call.
Yeah.